made in 1939, or an old Fender Telly signed by Buddy Holly back before he died. You could even own Chet Atkins' favorite axe, but buddy, that don't mean a thing if at the end of the day you still can't say that you know how to change the strings. Change the strings, change the strings, better change those strings. Ba-ba-da-da. Howdy y'all, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. This is Banjo Ben's Guitar 101. Today we're going to cover some very important things that all guitar pickers need to know sooner or later, and that's how to change your strings. But beyond that, we're even going to cover how to clean your guitar, different tips while changing your guitar strings to make it quicker and easier, and then also how to stretch your strings when you get done, which can be really important. So it just so happens that my own McPherson here needs a new set of elixirs, so I'm going to break it down for you and show you close-ups. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And after today, you won't have any excuse. You can run out to the music store, buy you a new set, and get it on that guitar, get it sounding good. Let's dive in. Hey guys, first thing I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about what tools we're going to need to change the strings. There's really just a couple things that we need. One, of course, are strings. We'll talk about that a little bit, but the other thing is maybe a couple of tools that can make your life a lot easier whenever you're unwinding these strings or clipping the strings, the new strings that you're putting on. Now I'm going to show you a couple of these tools here. Very basic, very cheap tools to get, and it's worth it. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier. This is just a simple string winder. I think you can find these for around 99 cents at Guitar Center or different stores. You can buy one online. That's just used to wind your strings. You put them on the tuners, and it also has, you can see there on the end, what's called a bridge pin puller. See that little slot there on the end? We'll put those around our bridge pins. Will allow us to pop them out of the saddle there, and we'll talk about that. The other thing I have is just a simple pair of pliers here, little shears, and I'll show you a close-up of those. These are just some that I bought at Lowe's. You want them really small because we're having to work in tight spaces. I've done it with bigger shears before, but you end up sometimes boogering up the headstock of your guitar. You want to be able to just reach in there and clip the strings and not touch anything else so that you don't mess up the finish on your guitar. So the first thing we're going to do is pull the strings off, the old strings off the guitar. Why, hello. I'm messing with you. Hey, y'all have to bear with me. I'm having to be my own cameraman here today. I'm always my own cameraman. Maybe one day I can hire somebody. But the first thing we're going to do is get the string winders that I showed you, and we're going to pull all the strings off this McPherson. Now these strings are older. I've had them on there for a long time. So there's one word of caution that I'd like to offer, and that's to keep your eyes away from the strings as you take these strings down. Because sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes when strings get really old and you start taking the tension off of them, they can snap. And I've had them snap and reach up and get me in the face before. We don't want to do that, so I'm going to turn the guitar away from me. I'm going to take this string winder that I showed you just a couple minutes ago. We're going to make sure that we wind these strings the correct direction. Okay? We don't want to wind them tighter, or we'll end up breaking them for sure. One way to check that is just to strum the guitar, click the string, and if you can hear the note go down, that means that it's going in the right direction. So I'm just going to take my string winder here, and now we don't have to take it all the way off. All we have to do is get it loose enough to where, let me show you right there, we just want to get it loose enough to where the string can be pulled off. So I've done the low E string here, you can see that, and now it's loose enough where I can reach up here and undo it. So that saves us a little bit of time. We pull it out of the tuner there. Now I'm going to give you one other quick tip. There's a lot of people that will do each individual string, but I tell you what I do, and this saves a little time. I go ahead and I unwind each one of the strings and get them taken off of the peg head, leave them still in your bridge pin. That way we can do them all at once, curl the strings up, we have less mess. I'm kind of OCD about that. But just really quickly, I'm going to loosen the rest of these. Okay, now I have all the strings undone, and I'm going to give you one other tip here. After you get the strings off, go ahead and take the time to line up the holes that your strings go through. Line them up parallel with your fingerboard. That's going to make our job just a little easier here in a little while. So I'm going to go back and twist them here, line those up. Usually I do it automatically. Line those up with our fingerboard so that as we're looking at it from this angle, we can see straight into all 6 of those holes. Okay, so now I have all my strings are still on my bridge pins down here, and most all of these string winder tools, as I mentioned earlier, are going to have a bridge pin gap on the end of it. Okay, you can see this little gap, and what we're going to do is take that and we're going to gently put them under each one of these bridge pins here in the bridge, and we're going to use our leverage to pop those out. Okay, I'm just going to start with the low E string here, and there it goes. It came out really easily. Now we would just want to keep up with these bridge pins. They can get lost pretty easily. But I'm just going to go right down the line here. Now sometimes some of these bridge pins, especially with older guitars, will give you trouble coming out. And at that point, what I like to do is reach my hand into the sound hole of the guitar, find the bridge pin that's being cantankerous there, and I will gently press up with my left hand up against the bottom of that bridge pin. Just be really careful whenever you're applying any kind of pressure to the top of this guitar, because it's so sensitive, and I've heard too many horror stories of people pressing either down or from above on the top of these guitars and end up cracking something, and that would be bad. Okay, so now I have all the bridge pins pulled out. I have all my strings gone from my tuning pegs up there. So really all I have left to do, you notice that they've all stayed here in the bridge. I'm just going to pull them right out. Now, I have all 6 strings all here together. Okay, we don't have them strewn out everywhere. And then what I can do, this is what I like to do, my sisters like to do this too, is start with this, the curly ends here, and I'm just going to wrap them up. And then I'm going to wind them just like this, so that I have kind of a little bracelet of guitar strings here. Then what my sisters like to do, they like to make a Christmas tree decorations out of these. They'll hook together a bunch of them. By the end of the year, you'll have 40 or 50 sets of strings. Well, with all the instruments that we play, we end up having those. And they'll hook them together, and they have long chains, kind of like you used to do with the little pieces of construction paper as a kid. Okay, so now we have the strings off. We can discard these. And I want to cover something right quick. While we have the strings off, I want to cover cleaning your guitar. This is not a necessity to do every time you change your strings, but it is a good habit to be in. I'm going to show you one product that I have and show you just a quick and easy way to clean it. Alright y'all, I have a product here that I've had actually for about a year. I haven't used it that much. It's a great product, but I don't particularly endorse one product over another. There's lots of different companies out there that make great cleaning and polishes. This is Martin & Company Guitar Polish, professional guitar polish. It also says that it cleans, restores, and polishes the finish of the fine wood musical instruments. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got a little cloth here. You want a really soft cloth, something that's definitely not abrasive. You want to find the smoothest, just old t-shirts work fine. The same t-shirts that I wear, sometimes when they get old, I'll just cut them into squares and use those to clean my guns and clean my guitars. But what I'm going to do is, I don't particularly like to spray the polish directly onto the wood. You can do that, but sometimes you can concentrate it in areas that are tough to get with this rag. So I'm going to actually just spray it on the rag. Just about 3 sprays there, get it a little damp. And I'm just going to, what we're doing here is really just cleaning. These get dusty, get dirty, get drool and food and all kinds of stuff in these guitars. And the reason why I like to do it whenever I change my strings is because you don't have the strings here to inhibit you anymore. It's always tough to clean up underneath those strings. And also, just another tip here, especially when you get new strings on there, do not use cleaning agents around them, because I've put brand new $15 strings on before and then tried to polish something and got some polish on the strings, it will kill them. It will kill them dead. They'll sound like 6-month-old strings, and that's really annoying. I wanted to point out something really cool on this McPherson. I've really enjoyed this guitar, but one of the cool things about McPherson is that they don't have a truss rod adjustment. Okay, the neck is set, but what they do is whenever you buy the guitar, they include 3 different saddles with the guitar, and these are all bone saddles, very high quality. And they send you a short action, a medium action, and a high action. Right now I have the medium action in there. It makes it really nice because dirt gets kind of down around it, different places, and now I can just pull that out and get it all cleaned up, place it right back in there, and you're ready to go. Now, this is also a great opportunity to clean your fretboard because it's almost impossible to clean your fretboard when you have your strings on. And also the peg head. So I'm just going to take a minute here and get around these tuners. That tends to get pretty dusty and dirty up there. Now some guys I know, they go to the extreme. They'll get not toothpicks, they'll get Q-tips and really get down in every crack and crevice like they're detailing an automobile, which is good. Alright, she's all cleaned up. So what we're going to do now is address how to restring it. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about strings themselves. Alright, the strings that I'm going to use today are my favorite strings. There's lots of different opinions out there on which strings are best, but my personal favorite strings are Elixir Strings, and the ones that I use are the medium, the nano web with the nano web coating. Elixir makes several different kinds of strings with different kinds of coatings. The original string that they made was called a polyweb. It has a thicker coating on it. They're smoother to play, but they have a little bit of a synthetic sound to them. And so I was really glad when they came out with this nano web coating. This has a much lighter coating on it than the polyweb. It really sounds like your traditional strings, and but it has the protection, the corrosion protection, and the playing protection that Elixirs are known for. Like I say, I use the mediums, the 13s, and these are my favorite strings. Now a lot of people say, I don't want to use the Elixirs because they're too expensive. They are expensive. They're just about your most expensive string, but I've found that that I don't have to change these near as often as I do other types of strings. As a matter of fact, I'll keep these strings on forever. They just keep sounding good. They'll easily outlast 2 to 3 times as long as some of the other strings. So when you look at the price point, you think, well, they're expensive, but I'm only having to change them maybe half as often or less than that. I'm not endorsed by Elixir. I don't get anything by promoting them. I just want to tell you that this is my favorite string. If you happen to work at Elixir and you're watching this video, give me a call. But these are the ones that I recommend. These NanoWeb, these are 80/20 bronze, just to give you a few more details on them. So we're going to get these out and put them on. Now, if you can make a mistake in changing your guitar strings, believe me, I've done it. We all make stupid mistakes as we learn how to change your strings. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm here to try to safeguard you and warn you against a couple of those. And one of those mistakes that I made early on was not paying attention to which string came in which package. I got in a hurry, or I wasn't paying attention, probably thinking about some girl, and which would be my wife, and I grabbed the wrong string and put it on the wrong place on the guitar. And then what ended up happening when I got my tuner out and I tuned it up, that string wasn't made to go there, and we had a slight explosion. Okay, so what I want to do, what I want to have you do is really pay attention to which string you have. Most string containers, whenever you get them, they'll tell you the diameter of the string and which string that corresponds to. So on the back of this Elixir box, it says 0.056. It'll say my low E string. Okay, so I'm going to take that string out right here, and the first thing we're going to do is unwind it, and we're going to get it put in this bridge. Okay, so I'm going to take this bridge pin. We're going to place the ball end of the string. Let me zoom it in for you here. We're going to take the ball end of this string place it down inside the hole that corresponds to which string it is, and then I'm going to take the bridge pin. Most bridge pins are slotted. These particular ones from McPherson are not slotted. They're round all the way around, but sometimes you'll see on one edge will be a little slot cut into that bridge pin. At that point, you want to put the little slotted edge up against the actual string. Okay, so if that slotted edge is on this side, then we'd want to put that slotted edge up against that string, and that's just going to hold it in there. This one is not slotted, so it doesn't really matter which way it goes in there. I'm just going to take it, place it down in there, and at the same time that I'm pushing this bridge pin down in there, I'm going to be pulling up on my string so that that ball on the end of the string can meet the bottom of this bridge pin. We can get a really secure connection there. And you'll be able to, after you do this for a while, you'll be able to feel whenever you've hit that sweet spot. I can push this down and pull up, and I really feel that ball really set in there. Okay? So that is set. Next thing I want to do is take the other end of my string, and this is where it comes in handy to have your the holes in your tuners lined up with the fretboard, because now I can run that string directly through that hole on my low E tuner and pull it through. Okay, so that's what we've done so far. We've just got this secure down here. We've ran it through the tuner. Now this is where a little bit of touch comes in. A little bit of experience is really going to help you, because a lot of times I'll see folks' guitars, and you've probably noticed it too, but down here on the tuners they'll have a big ball of extra string wound up on that tuner. To me, that's avoidable, and it really will affect your tuning down the road. If you have a lot of string wrapped up on that tuner, then that's a lot more string that's going to have to stretch and stretch and stretch until that string eventually reaches its limit and can be tuned well. Okay, so we want to put the minimum amount of string around this tuner, but not so little that the string will slip out. Okay, and there's an art to that. And let me just tell you the little trick that I've found. We want to have just enough slack in this string to where I can wrap the string once around the tuner and have no more slack left. Does that make sense? I'll give you a close-up here. Now here's a close-up of the headstock. I've ran the string, we're dealing with our low E string here. I've ran the string through the tuner, and the next thing I want to do is, like I mentioned before, is have enough slack, and only enough slack in the string to where I can wrap this string around the tuner once and only once. If you have enough slack to wrap it twice, then that means you have too much extra string. You're going to have some problems. If you can't get it around quite once, then there's a chance that you might have not enough string on here, and in the future it may slip with you and mess up your tuning that way. One other thing that I'd like to mention, it's not an absolute necessity, but proper guitar etiquette tells us that whenever you're stringing your guitar, you always want the string on the left side of your tuners to run clockwise, and on your right side of your tuners they would run counterclockwise. Now an easy way to tell this is just make sure that your string is always trailing to the inside of the tuners. Okay, if my string, here I'll just show you here, we're going to wrap it around once. That's kind of tough to do sometimes, but you want just enough slack to be able to do this. You see what I've done there? Now, you see how my string is running to the inside of the tuner. You would not want this string to run to the outside and go back this way. And what this does, this just gives us a standard to tune by. So now if somebody picks up my guitar, they don't have to look down here and see which way the strings are run. If it's flat, they know that they can turn the key one way or turn the key the other way. Regardless of what you do, you want to be consistent in what you do. But I recommend that your string always trails to the inside of your tuner. Okay, now that we have it here, this is kind of a little trick, but it's great to have your guitar laid on something where you're not having to hold it. But I'm going to pull some slack with my right hand here and kind of keep my finger down while I get this started. Now I'm not using my string winder right now because we don't quite need it, but I'm going to wind it And this is the trick, y'all. Are you ready? We want this string to end up winding beneath the loop that we've already made. Okay, you see how we did that? We made the loop around the tuner. Now whenever I tighten it, I want the string to be underneath the loop that we've already made. Okay, now sometimes this tail can get in your way, and I just simply bend it straight up so it kind of stays out of the way. And we're going to keep tension on it. We don't want to wind this and not keep tension on it, or we're not going to have a tight wind down here, and you're going to end up having some stretching issues later down the road. Okay, but now that I have it wound a couple times around, remember here that the string is going beneath the tail. Can you see that? This string is running underneath it. Now I can take my string winder if I want and wind it up, okay? Now another word of wisdom here, because this is a mistake that everybody's made once you tune string guitars for a while, and that is tuning the string up way above where it needs to be. It's very easy to pop brand new guitar strings because you're in a hurry and you get to winding this thing up thinking that you need to keep going, and it's already reached the string stretching capacity. You're tuning it way above where it's supposed to be, and you'll pop it. I've been blessed with a pretty good ear to where I can recognize that that's an E note. Okay, but for those of you who aren't familiar with it, you may want to have a tuner sitting out, and that way you're sure not to go over what the string is designed to do. Now, this is a good opportunity to show you how to clip the ends here. We have these little clippers that I showed you earlier. We want to be very careful not to get into this finished area of the wood. It'd be very easy for the end of these clippers to scar that up. So we're going to come in here and get almost as close as we can get with these clippers and give it a quick clip. There we go. Now you don't want to leave those too long because those can sure enough snag you. I've been stabbed by several strings. You see a lot of folks that will leave the ends of these guitar strings on and kind of curl them up. I used to do that too, especially when I didn't have clippers. But believe it or not, I don't know why, but this is just what I believe. When you leave those on there, it's going to affect your tuning. It's harder to keep your guitar in tune. I don't know why that is. There's got to be some reason. But that's the reason, okay, that we clip those strings. Now, I'm going to put the rest of these strings on, and you can watch. Remember here that once I've started on the G tuner, that I'm now wrapping my strings back around the other way so that my string stays on the inside of the tuner. It's going back down towards the neck. Okay, so now we're wrapping our strings in the opposite direction. Okay, y'all, we've got the strings on the guitar, and I want to remind you of something. It's easy whenever we're stringing this guitar to forget about our bridge pins down here. So one thing that I like to do, as soon as I get my last string in, and you get it up to around relative tune, I like to go back down here and examine these bridge pins, because it's very easy. If you didn't have the ball ends of these strings seated exactly right with these bridge pins, some of these bridge pins can start popping up. Okay, so we just want to make sure that they're all the way down in there. Make sure there's not one of them that's maybe sticking up. If there is, see if you can gently push it back down. If you can't, then we're going to need to go back down, release the tension on that string, and reseat it and restring it. Okay, that's important, because if you don't pay attention to that, it's possible to be playing it and all of a sudden this thing fly out. Put somebody's eye out, as your mama used to say. Okay, so now that we've got it close, what I want to do is tune the guitar up to pretty close what it is. But before we do that, I want to do what's just some stretching. For years and years when I play guitar, I did not stretch my strings after I got done tuning. And it would take several hours of playing, at least an hour of playing afterwards, to get the strings set to where they wouldn't just keep falling out of tune. That's very annoying, and it took me moving to Nashville and starting to play for different artists here in town to learn that there's an alternative. And when I was playing with Taylor Swift, we had some incredible guitar techs, and what they would do is they would change strings on all of our instruments every day, and they would stretch these strings so that when they handed it to us at the start of the show with brand new strings, we didn't have to worry about 20 minutes into the show the tuning drop a half step. Okay, so I kind of watched what they did and added some technique of my own. But the first thing I want you to do is grab each one of these strings, and don't be scared of them. You don't want to go overboard, but we don't have to be scared of these strings. If your strings break when you do what I show you here, then you need to change strings. You're not using good strings. Okay, but we're going to grab it at about the 12th fret, because that's halfway down our scale length, and we want to grab each individual string, kind of pull it up, and just give it a good shake back and forth. Okay, I got the E string there, and I'm going to move on to that A, and just move all the way through these strings, doing these various stretches here. Okay, now that I've stretched those out, there's another one that we can do, and that is grab 4 strings at a time. Okay, I'm going to grab this low E string, A, D, and my G string, and I'm going to grab them, and I'm just going to pinch them together. Okay, I'm going to take 2 hands there and just kind of pinch them together, hold them there for a little while, maybe jiggle it a little bit. Then I'm going to move up a string, grab the A string all the way up to the B string, do the same thing. Okay, then I'm going to do it again all the way up to this high E string. Okay, now once we've done that, they're stretched pretty good, but there's one more that we can do, and this is kind of like giving a massage here. We're going to grab the E string with both of our thumbs, and we're just going to give it a good push. We're actually pushing the A string along with it. Okay, we're just kind of pushing it till about the middle of the fretboard. Okay, you don't want to go past that. You might be putting undue stress on it, but then we're gonna move it along to the A string, push it about the same distance. D string, G string, you can push it all the way almost out to the end of the fretboard. Now the B string, we don't really have room to stretch it that way, so I'm going to grab it with my fingers here, get it underneath my fingernails, and just kind of pull it back towards me. Do the same for our E string. Okay, now your guitar is going to be out of tune after you do that, so then we're going to tune it up. And I'm going to show y'all something. There's all kinds of great tuners that you can get, but I have a tuning app on my iPhone here that those of you with iPhone are really going to love. It's $10. It's an expensive application, but it is worth it. I use it every day. Once again, I'm not endorsed by these companies. It's just if something really works great, I want to support it. I want to tell y'all to support it. It's called Guitar Toolkit, and the icon is a little flamed guitar pick there in the lower right corner. Okay, so when we go there, we've got an excellent tuner. You can put it on strobe mode or other different kinds of modes, and it's got a metronome, a tap tempo pad, which I use all the time. It's got chord charts of every possible chord you could possibly want to know, and where you can strum it and you can listen to it. Okay, so I'm going to use this tuner here, and we're just going to tune up right quick. And as suspected, we were a little flat because we stretched these strings. All right, we are tuned up almost and ready to go. All right, y'all, I hope you've enjoyed our lesson for today. I know there wasn't much playing that happened, but we learned something very important. I think people that have even been changing their strings for years could glean a tip or some bit of knowledge off this. I know that we all have room to grow. There's all kinds of little tips, tricks of the trade that will help you along your way, and I think it's wise for us to pick those up wherever we can get them. Thank you for stopping by my website, my YouTube channel. Don't forget to join me at Facebook, facebook.com/TheBanjoBen. And of course, my website's banjobenclark.com. I have tons of free learning material also on Facebook that's not offered on YouTube or on my website. And I give away a lot of stuff on my Facebook page. I have some great sponsors that like to give away all kinds of cool, expensive gifts that I can't afford. And but it's even funner, more fun to give them away. But anyway, you got some brand new strings in your guitar. There's nothing like that, folks. Nothing like brand new strings. Go pick you a tune.